My name is Candace Nichols, and I'm the Director of Programs at the LGBT Center. Thank you for joining tonight with Memory Care during a time of isolation, presented in partnership with Eisenhower Wellness and the Center. It is part of our Health and Wellness series and a partnership that we do have with Eisenhower as we go into the fall season, just so that you're aware. I think we have about 2 a month featured. So either your Eisenhower newsletter or the Center's newsletter will keep you apprised at what those are. So a little housekeeping, Zoom housekeeping items, which all audio will be muted once you log in, and it will be opened up for questions perhaps at the end individually. Please use the chat feature on the bottom to ask any questions, and we will see if they get answered along the way or at the end, but either way they will get answered. We want you to know that this meeting is being recorded for future use, and by joining you are consenting to be recorded. So if you want to not have your face recorded, you can always hit your camera if you choose, and then or select speaker view. So without further ado, as I've already welcomed you and given you the title, I'm going to introduce you to Mr. Brett Klein from Eisenhower, who will introduce our speaker for the evening. Brett?
Great, thanks Candace, really appreciate it. Just let me let one more person in the room. Thank you, welcome, happy hump day. It's, I don't know what that means now in a COVID world, but it's a Wednesday and at least it's a break of the week. As Candace mentioned, we're excited to be in partnership with the LGBT Center for our lecture series ongoing. And so I always say, if you have ideas and things that you would like to have us speak on, please send an email or correspondence to Candace, or you can call the center and ask the question as well. And they will be able to get that to us, and we can be thinking about what types of lectures you have. We have a lot of stuff, I think interesting things scheduled for the next few months, and we're not taking any break like we would normally do in the summer. So it's all good. So with that, I'm going to turn it over because he has a great presentation coming up. And then I will be monitoring the chat feature. So if you want to use the chat feature to ask a question, please do so. And where appropriate, I can ask that of Brian, or you can wait till the end and then he'll open up the dialogue for questions as well. Whoops, let me add that person. All right, with that in mind, I'm going to bring in Brian Hess, who is our programs manager for our Memory Care Center. And Brian, if you want to unmute, you're good to go.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. We will be talking about caregiver isolation concerns as they relate to both the current situation of home care and isolation that caregivers and families are experiencing during COVID times, but then also how that relates to just everyday care that you give to your loved one. Specifically for families that are dealing with neurocognitive impairments, so that's Alzheimer's, dementia, but that also includes any other condition where your loved one would be at home with you. So that could be MS or Lou Gehrig's or any number of conditions. So I always say I don't limit it to only memory care or memory loss. It's a lot of other conditions too. So all right. So I'm the program supervisor of the Eisenhower Memory Care Center. And quick synopsis of who we are. We are an adult daycare center that's in Palm Springs. We specialize in memory loss, so that again is usually dementia and Alzheimer's, but it can also include things like multiple sclerosis, Lou Gehrig's disease, autism, Parkinson's. There are many other conditions that can fall under cognitive impairments. So some of those we'll be talking about tonight. So due to COVID concerns and current times, many families and caregivers are isolated in their care of their loved ones. So we're separating ourselves from families and friends and neighbors, and thus our world in caregiving for a loved one with memory loss becomes much smaller. You may not be inviting other people in to your home or into your care plan with your loved one. It may simply be you and them, and it's the two of you against the world these days. Or maybe your caregiver plan has become a lot smaller because of COVID concerns. When your care plan becomes smaller, it's tough enough when it's big and you've got a lot of people involved. When it becomes even smaller and then you add the COVID concerns into it, several things can occur. Usually that's caregiver frustration and anxiety. A lot of guilt comes with that. And then of course, burnout. Those are things that we're going to be covering today, amongst other things related to the care that you're experiencing now and how to deal with it. So all of these concerns, again, frustration, anxiety, loss of interest, feeling like you're not prepared to deliver the kind of care that your loved one needs, feeling unorganized in delivering that care, or being burnt out because it's overwhelming for you. They're all normal for any form of caregiving, whether it's has to do with memory loss or your loved one just broke their ankle and is unable to get out of bed. Any form of caregiving experiences these kinds of aspects of feeling overwhelmed. So some pointers on how to overcome that anxiety and frustration that you may be experiencing. The most important one is to start making your care plan a little bit bigger to include help from family, friends, and neighbors. Now, again, we're not exactly opening that up too big right now because of COVID, but where and when possible, involve family, friends, and neighbors where you can. You're automatically making things a little bit easier for yourself when you allow someone else to help you in that 24/7 care that you're having to do right now. Another thing that you want to do is reach out to resources that specialize, that specialize in dementia care. So that's support groups, that's reaching out to us here at Memory Care, going to other support groups such as this one, doing Zoom meetings or teleconference things where you get to talk about your concerns with other people that are experiencing very similar circumstances in their own lives and own care of their loved one. You can bounce off ideas from them, even if your time in that support group at that time is just blowing off some steam and talking about ideas. Even if that's all you get out of it, that's perfect. You want to participate in support groups. This one is something I can't stress enough, because if you're experiencing any of those frustration, anxiety, interest levels going up and down, feeling unprepared, unorganized, you need that support. That's there for you as a caregiver and as a family. If you need it, find it. At the end of this presentation, I'm going to put up some local resources that have support groups. So that's coming at the end, but there are several out there for you to choose from. Another thing you can do is explore good old YouTube. Lots of videos on YouTube are specifically on dementia care, and there's some really great information in those. Sometimes you have to filter that out and make it, personalize it for you. But there are some pretty informative videos out there on YouTube. If you're looking for specific ones, let me know and I'll direct you to the ones that I always use. And then, of course, reading books on dementia and memory loss. That is something that any support group or organization out here should have a lending library. I know we have a lending library here at Memory Care. Because we're not open for service, I can send you books through the mail if you'd like. That's, thank God the mail service is still going, even if it's a little bit hitched right now. So, all right, so caregiver and family guilt is quite common, especially now during that 24/7 caregiving, with little or no outside interaction, meaning that you've made your care plan group much smaller because of COVID. So now it's just you and mom against the world. Guilt typically stems from a lack of skilled care knowledge, meaning that you were not prepared to deliver this kind of care or this level of care. And you were also not prepared to deal with the resulting behavioral issues. Remember that memory loss isn't just where did I put my keys or what day is it? It's the behaviors that come with that you're dealing with. So memory loss is bigger than just where did I put my keys? I can't remember what day it is. It's bigger than that. So some tips on caregiver guilt management. Number one is know that you're not alone. I know that sounds really Hallmark-like, but you really are not alone. You need to seek out those support services like support groups and memory care facilities to help you along the way. This is especially true if you are the primary caregiver and you're it. If there's no one else helping you in your care of your loved one, seeking out support services is paramount for you. It's important for you to be motivated to learn. And that's because as you get information coming in to you from the support services that you seek out, you're going to want to be motivated to put that information into use. Information doesn't help you if you say, well, that's not going to work for me, so forget it. It's important to be receptive to the information that comes in to you from others who have been in your shoes before. Some things may work for you and others may not, but it's important to be receptive of that information. And when you need to, it's important for you to be able to step away to provide for you. And that goes back to maybe opening up the number of care givers that you have in your circle, maybe opening up that to friends and family and neighbors that can help you so that you have that chance to step away when you need a break. If you're not getting a break to take care of you, that shows in your care that you're delivering to your loved one. And that's a whole other cycle that we'll talk about here in a little bit, but make sure that you're giving yourself a break in all of this also. So despite closures and quarantining, and even in a normal time, this could also include weekends when you're not, your loved one is not in a social service like memory care here, when your loved one is home with you 24/7. Getting some socialization is still important, and it's still achievable right now during this time, even though we're quarantining. Some possible social encounters that can happen right now are visits from neighbors, friends, and family. If you're limiting the number of friends and family and neighbors that you from the outside that you're having in your home to assist in your caregiving of your loved one, then coordinate that with them. Try to come up with a care plan that enables you to be able to step away when you need to, and it allows them the chance to come and help you at a time that works for them also. So you need to do a little bit of scheduling, coordinating in there. But if they can step in, by all means, take them up on that offer if they're willing. Doing Zoom meetings like this, for example, are another important thing. Sometimes with these kinds of teleconference meetings, we think that it's only for the caregiver. But if your loved one can sit and watch and pay attention to this, if they don't understand it, so what? This is a social interaction for them. They're hearing somebody's voice talking. They may not understand it, but it's social interaction. It's something right now. So a lot of these Zoom meetings I do open up to the actual patient because it helps them. It's something that they can do and they can watch and be a part of as you're getting the information for yourself. Some services, including myself here at Memory Care, are offering counseling and check-in calls for providers. The calls are for providers, but they're also from providers. So people that have been in your shoes will be doing check-in calls for you if you seek that out. That's a really great thing for caregivers that are burnt out and need to hear someone else's voice besides just their loved one, or they need to talk about something that is above and beyond what their loved one can do. They need to have an adult conversation with somebody beyond just their loved one all the time, all day, all night. So counseling and check-in calls are a great option for caregivers that are in that burnout stage. Another thing that you can do as we cool off here in the desert and as things begin to open up is going for walks around your neighborhood or parks or stores. Sort of start to get out a little bit, out of the house a little bit. Doesn't mean you have to go running through the mall, but if you can open up your world a little bit, that gives your loved one that socialization that they need. And don't forget, if they need it, probably so do you as the caregiver. So let's see, then there are support services available. And again, I can't stress how important support services are for caregivers and families of loved ones dealing with some form of memory loss. Support groups are both the support on an emotional, psychological level, but it's also your chance to share information with others who have been in your shoes before. So those of you who aren't real keen on the emotional aspect of support groups, you're going to get some information in there that is very important for you, especially right now during isolation and quarantining. So sometimes you have to overlook that emotional aspect to get to the information that you need, but stick with it, because a lot of support groups are doing both right now. They're not just the emotional service, but it's also the information and education that's crucial for you right now. And a lot of these are occurring both through Zoom videos like we're doing now and the teleconference. So it's available to you on platforms that cater to what you have available for yourselves. The Alzheimer's Association has a support group that meets every Thursday morning from 9 to 11 a.m. Our support group here at Eisenhower Memory Care Center is facilitated by the Alzheimer's Association. So this first group here is both Alzheimer's Association and Eisenhower Memory Care's support group. This is a great support group for you to get involved with, again, by teleconference or Zoom. Once we reopen for memory care services here at Memory Care Center, we will be eventually going back to the in-person version of this support group. But this is a great resource for anyone out there. The Alzheimer's Coachella Valley does a support group every Tuesday and Thursday. They also have other services available that I'm going to be talking about here in a moment, but their support services are every Tuesday and Thursday. So if you're not able to do that Thursday morning from 9 to 11 and Tuesday works better for you, you've got options here. Inland Caregivers Resource Center is offering a counseling program for caregivers. It's, excuse me, it's called their Pearls program, and it's geared towards the mental health of caregivers to avoid burnout. So this is a resource, and again, the contact information for these resources will be coming up here in a moment. But for those of you who are reaching that burnout stage and would like to seek some real mental health kinds of resources, Inland Caregivers is a great resource for you, and it's free. Family counseling is something that I'm doing here with Memory Care Center. So families that their loved ones have been enrolled here in the program, but also those who have never been here before. So your loved one or yourself have never been here before. I'm still doing it with those families. Family counseling is talking about your experience is with giving care to your loved one 24/7. What are some of the things that you're, excuse me, some of the concerns that you're running into? What are the hurdles you're experiencing? I walk you through that on an individual basis. And again, sometimes you just need to hear an adult voice and have an adult conversation with somebody other than mom. And this is a great way for you to have that without even leaving the house. So Joslin Senior Center is offering by appointment counseling services also. And that's, of course, right here in town, over the phone and by Zoom, of course. And then Riverside County Office on Aging is also offering some support services. And let's see. So that's support services, but then also for social engagement, there are some activities that are being offered by teleconference and Zoom. This is a perfect way for your loved one to stay engaged so that, again, there's that socialization again that they need. Gives them a chance to work on task skills, stay oriented to a daily schedule that they may not be getting right now, and that's a whole other conundrum. And it also provides you as a caregiver a moment of respite because they're busy doing their activities through this teleconference or a Zoom, and you have a moment to breathe. It gives you a chance to step away even for just a moment to do something for yourself while still being there with them. Some of these services are provided by Alzheimer's Coachella Valley. They're offering a program called Club Journey that's twice a week, and it offers things like art projects, music, singing, trivia, and games. It's a great program really for anybody to get involved with, but especially someone who's dealing with dementia and Alzheimer's and all of those other forms of cognitive impairment that we talked about. This is a great program. It's twice a week. It's a lot of fun. Get involved in that if you can. Joslin Senior Center is offering caregiver classes and virtual activities like music, and they're also offering a variety show. That's a lot of fun. There's a lot of talent in this area, and Joslin Center does a great offering of this kind of a program. It's a lot of fun. Even if all you do is sit back and enjoy it, perfect. Maybe that's better than watching TV. That's something different. There's another program that you can get involved with, and that's called Music Men's Minds. That's a program that's offered from an organization that's in LA, and they're a musical singing group that puts on a musical show, variety show, 3 times a week, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You don't have to be able to sing. You can hum. It's perfect for your loved one that has memory loss because they love to sing. They love music. And this is perfect. It's offered, more information about this is coming up here, but it's offered 3 times a week. So perfect number of chances to be involved with this. And then at Eisenhower Memory Care Center here, I'm offering a weekly email activities and links to engaging interactive events, along with some caregiver information and education and other local resources that helps you as a caregiver to plan ahead and have some activities to do at home without having to do teleconferencing or Zoom meetings. And you can use those activities as socialization and engagement events around the home. And knowing how to manage and provide care at home is probably the single most important skill set needed right now for families and caregivers because of that quarantining and isolating that we're doing. So months ago, a year ago, your care plan may have involved 5 or 10 people, family, friends, neighbors, and it got much smaller because of COVID. But as things change in the community, as we open up, as your needs for your care plan change and you need more people to be involved, it might behoove you to be willing to accept a few more people in that care plan as you can. So, excuse me, so that gives you the chance to step away and take a break for yourself, which is something that you need right now. And it allows other people to get involved in their care so they can sharpen up their skills. And it allows that socialization for your loved one that they need. So having someone else care for your loved one that allows you to step away and do what you need to do for you allows your loved one to have a social experience with someone other than yourself. And that helps them. Usually, unless you're a medical professional, home care management seems like a daunting task that you may not feel equipped to handle. The reality is that there are many ways to learn the appropriate care skills needed to provide this level of care that you're experiencing right now as your loved one progresses. And that goes back to those resources that we talked about a minute ago that you can seek out from local organizations to help you along the way. Even though our world is much smaller right now and we're limiting the number of times that we leave the house and we're isolating and quarantining, there is still a lot of available help out there for you to help you cope with these times and to enhance your caregiving skills and make it a much more cohesive and effective experience for you as a caregiver. The key to providing the best care that you can in home for your loved one is communication. Remember, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but remember that memory loss is not just cognitive, meaning it's not just about that you can't remember what day it is or where did I put my keys. It's also behavioral. That means that because your loved one is losing the ability to orient to time, place, and people, meaning that they don't remember what day it is, frustration, anxiety in them turns into behavior that you're seeing. Sometimes that behavior is retaliation against you, or anger, or confusion, or so on. So being able to communicate with them to overcome those hurdles is one of the most important things that you can do to be, to be an effective caregiver. Appropriate communication is often the difference between caregiver burnouts and family fiascos that result from that, and successful and effective daily management. So learning communication skills, again, it's one of the most important things that you can do for yourself as we go through these times. Again, memory loss is not just cognitive, it's also behavioral. Without appropriately coping through behaviors with effective communication, inevitably you're going to get those behaviors such as acting out, frustration and anxiety from them, retaliation, even some incontinent type of behavior will result from not having the best communication skills with your loved one. So how do you enhance your communication with your loved one? What does that mean? So you're going to want and need to use a calm, pleasant, and reassuring tone when you're talking to your loved one that has memory loss. Loud, frustrated, angry tones, that's not going to work. And you've probably experienced that at least once on your own, where they were asking over and over, when are we going to go home, or something like that. And you lost it, and your tone went from something along the lines of understanding to you snapped. And the response from them was behavioral. So angry, frustrated tones, that doesn't work for them. So remember to use calm, pleasant, reassuring tones. That usually means you need to slow it down a little bit. Use direct eye contact, hand holding. A pleasant, warm body language goes a long way when you're talking to your loved one. Being reassuring with what you're saying and the way that you're delivering that message is going to tell them that even if they don't understand everything that you're saying, you're there to help them. You're there with them. It's not you against them. It's the two of you working together. There's something in that they can understand, but they're not going to be able to understand that angry tone, or at least they're not going to accept it because they can't understand it. Use humor. Humor is a blessing. We all know that. Find humor whenever possible and inject it into the conversation as much as you can. Everyone can relate to humor, but not everybody can understand multi-step or directional conversations. So long sentences with big words, complex meanings behind those sentences, your loved one may not be able to understand it, especially in the mid to later stages of memory loss. So simplify it. Make it something that they can understand. And a lot of times that may involve humor. Humor is a great way to help them in their understanding of what you're trying to say to them, the message that you're trying to deliver to them. Easy to understand language is best. You don't want to use big complex words or things that sound like doctor speak or medical speak. It's a very good possibility that in that mid to late stage, they're not going to be able to understand what you're trying to convey to them. And here comes that behavior again. Here comes all that frustration that we talked about. Guidance, which is both physical and verbal, through multi-step activities is best. So assuming that your loved one will know what to do when they get to the kitchen, so you're telling them, go to the kitchen and turn on the faucet and get some water. That may not work. That may be too complex for them. There's too many steps in that task. But if you're there guiding them through it and being a physical presence and offering verbal cues, that may work. They may be able to do the task, but they just need help along the way. Reward when necessary. And remember that reward doesn't necessarily mean a tangible gift. It can simply mean that you thank them for it. You give them a hug, a favorite dessert or a favorite TV show that you use as a reward. Remember that if you're asking somebody to do something complex that is something that they may not be motivated to do, if you reward them, we all love reward. That's a motivating factor right there. So if mom knows that you're going to be extra special nice to her when she does a task or participates in an activity you're going to do together, it's very possible that she's more receptive to that than if you don't use a reward. Throughout your day, plan for slower paced, easier to comprehend events and activities. So again, don't use that complicated language with multi-step directions. You need to simplify that schedule for them so that you're using that slower pace to do what they do during the day. So you're allowing more time for that task to be accomplished. Allowing more time is going to help you, so they may take a little bit more time to get dressed in the morning, to wake up in the morning, to eat their meals. But in the end, that task is completed and it's more successful for them. You did it on their time versus trying to hurry up and do it on our time. Our time is different than their time now. So their sense of time, place, and people is different, especially as they progress through their memory loss. So we need to slow it down a little bit for them. that is also called stepping into their world. So if you're having trouble with these communication skills and it's just not working for you, try to put yourself in their shoes for a moment and step into their world. You know them best and what their abilities are and where they are in their progression of memory loss. So try to step into their world, put yourself in their shoes, and try to kind of understand where they're coming from a little bit. And chances are, if you can do that to any degree, you'll have a better understanding of why you need to slow it down and use those communication skills a little bit more than you needed to a year ago or a few months ago. You can understand where they are a little bit better than if you don't do that. All right, so now we get into using communication skills to enhance some of the care that you're giving of your loved one right now. ADL stands for Activities of Daily Life, and that simply translates to personal care. These are some techniques that you can use to make this part of your day a little bit more successful for you when you're dealing with someone with memory loss. As your loved one, their memory loss progresses, the loss of abilities and independence is inevitable. It happens with them all. You're going to want to be prepared for this eventuality by brushing on your skills ahead of time so that you're prepared for their lack of or their loss of independence as that occurs. You're going to want to expect incontinence because it happens with almost all of memory loss patients. Somewhere in their progression, they all experience some form of incontinence. I believe the statistics are that about 75% of memory loss patients experience some form of incontinence. That's what's reported, but I can tell you it's probably a little bit higher than that, probably more like 90%. So being prepared early is important. It may not be happening now, but as we know, tomorrow's a different day. Your best ally for dealing with incontinence is to introduce pull-ups early and often to begin an understanding and acceptance of wearing them. Pull-ups are depends. They come in all kinds of fancy colors and styles right now. It used to be that they only came in one size fits all and they look like grandma's underwear, but they don't look like that anymore. So when you're having trouble introducing these to your loved ones, go and buy those fancy ones that they have at Target or Walgreens or wherever, and slowly begin the acceptance process of your loved one beginning to understand the need for them and accepting wearing them. You may need to, sometimes this process involves you wearing them so that they can see that, well, you're wearing them, so maybe I'll wear them too. I guess it's okay for me. You may need to lay them out with their underwear as you plan your day. This introduces it to them. It doesn't mean that they're going to wear them that day, but now you're starting to introduce it to them so it's more familiar to them in the hopes that eventually, as things move on in time, they will accept it and suddenly start wearing them. Sometimes you have to get creative with that, but you're going to need to plan for incontinence because I can almost guarantee that it will happen. Along with the incontinence, another common problem is bathing. For whatever number of reasons, folks that have memory loss don't like bathing. That falls off the list of importance with them. To overcome this, you're going to want to schedule it routinely, so it's part of your regular day. Reward, use reward when the task is accomplished. You may need to get crafty with your approach. Sometimes that means You take a shower with them. Sometimes it might mean that you allow them to take a shower with their bathing suit on. However it happens, start it regularly. Don't lose sight of, don't allow them to go multiple days without taking a shower. Remember that a bed bath, it's helpful, but it does not replace a shower. So get on that track of bathing on some kind of a regular basis and reinforcing the importance of it. They may not understand it, but again, if you use that soft, easy, calm communication, they may be more receptive to it, and you may have to get crafty with your approach, but it's an important task that you don't want to have fall by the wayside. It's a health concern. So then, let's see. As incontinence and bathing issues come up, so does the incidence of urinary tract infections. It's very common for folks with some kind of cognitive challenge to have a urinary tract infection. If you've never experienced something like this before, I can tell you it's not pretty. So with your care that you need to give your loved one, make sure that you keep them hydrated so you're keeping that urinary flow happening. Regular bathroom use, meaning that you use the bathroom on a regular basis. They may tell you they don't need to go. You take them to the bathroom anyway. You encourage them to continue to do that. Even if they tell you they don't need to go, they may not have the sense of the sense of urgency to go to the bathroom, but in fact, they may actually do need to go. Keeping a healthy daily schedule, that goes back to keeping hydration in that schedule, keeping the socialization and the mental stimulation in that schedule. Keeping them on a daily schedule lowers the increase of incidence of incontinence, bathing issues, and thus UTIs. If you suspect a UTI, please go to urgent care. Please seek medical help. It's a health concern. Do yourself a favor, and when you suspect a UTI, seek out medical attention. Watch out for speech and swallowing issues. Speech issues are both verbal speech and patterns, but also eating, drinking, and swallowing abilities. So we always think of speech as just verbal speech, but it's actually bigger than that. Be mindful of food portion sizes, difficult to chew foods, large or dense volume foods that can present swallowing hazards, and difficult to digest foods. As memory loss progresses, their diet will change, so you need to be prepared for that. Watch them as they're eating and drinking so that you're seeing some of these issues come up and present themselves. It's a good idea to never allow independent eating, because even if they're in early stage memory loss, they may still not have the sense that they need to eat. So they may not finish their plate. They may not be getting enough to eat or drink. And thus you need to monitor that. But also, even in early stages, you can see swallowing hazards and choking hazards. This happens a lot. So it's a good idea to never allow independent eating. Think of it this way. If they're doing independent eating, where's the socialization that they need? So think of it like that. You're going to want to consider consulting a speech therapist when you begin to see some of these issues happening. Difficulty eating, difficulty drinking, difficulty with speech patterns. It's a good idea to consult a speech therapist when needed. That's something that I can help guide you through that process when you need it. You're going to want to practice skills often that relate to what we've talked about. For example, hand washing, dressing, meal preparation, household chores. Allow them to participate in these activities as they can and do what of that activity that they can. They will need physical monitoring and verbal cueing, but you're going to encourage them to do what they can of that to promote independence and their skill sets that they do still have. You're going to want to talk about the importance of ADLs and chores to establish a meaning behind why they're doing that. It doesn't mean that they're going to like to do the activity, but they may be more receptive if you put an importance behind it. That goes back to that TLC and that calm tone, those communication skills that we talked about. Your loved one will be receptive to your calm, nice, gentle tone that you're using to get them to do what they need to do, but they're not going to go for that anger. And use of a regular daily schedule for ADL activities is very important. When you start to get off that schedule, it gets harder and harder for them to adhere to it because they've gotten off track, so did you, so now nobody's following it, and the importance of why you need to do that, that's starting to lose its meaning. So stay on track. Routine is key to success here. The use of assistive devices, if you need it. You want to make sure that your home is a safe place for your loved one and of course yourself. That might involve making some changes around the home, like changing treads and using handlebars in the shower, around the toilet, removing area rugs, removing barrier objects, use of assistive devices during meal times. Those are things that you can consult a speech therapist or an occupational therapist for, or just simply ask me and I can refer you to those services when needed. Allow your loved one to have some level of control over their own grooming habits and routine whenever it's possible and that's effective. That's encouraging independence, especially in early stages of dementia, which allows them to retain the skill sets that they're losing. And it also helps you to monitor their behavior for safety. So you're able to be a part of it and see what's starting to fall along the wayside so that you can better care plan as time moves on. When ADLs and personal care become too big a task for you alone to manage and handle, that's when you need to seek assistance from a home care agency or friends or family, because remember, you cannot do it by yourself. We all like to think that we're Superman and Superwoman, and you may be able to get away with that for a little bit, but it doesn't last forever. So when you're starting to see that you can't do it by yourself, you need to seek assistance. Seeking assistance, that's what these next two screens are all about. This information is for me here at the Eisenhower Memory Care Center. This is my phone number to my office right here. This is my email. So any help that you need along the way of caregiving, care planning, communication skills, the ADL skills that we just talked about, anytime you need help, you can call or you can email me. If I don't have the information myself, I'll point you in the right direction to get the information for you. The Alzheimer's Association, again, they facilitate our support group. This is their office phone number and their email address. They can give you information for the support group that occurs on Thursday mornings from 9 to 11. A great resource for all of you caregivers out there. The Alzheimer's Coachella Valley is another local nonprofit support organization. There's their office phone number and their email address. They offer the support group on Tuesdays and Thursday mornings, and they also do that interactive club journey, which is the art projects and music interactive events every Tuesdays and Thursdays also. Inland Caregiver Resource Center, that's the county and state funded resource center that's out of for the County of Riverside. This is their phone number and their email address. They have that program that's called PEARLS, which is the Caregiver Mental Health Program. So that's a great resource for those of you caregivers that are experiencing burnout or overwhelmingness to the point where you just need to reach out to somebody for some mental health relief. This is a great resource for you. The Joslyn Senior Center, there's their phone number and email. They're doing the caregiver assistance and counseling and the online Zoom and teleconference interactive programs. So is Mizell, excuse me. So is Mizell Senior Center. Mizell Senior Center is also doing a meal assistance program right now for those of you that are needing meal assistance. That's a great resource for you. Music Men's Minds, that's the program that does the 3 times a week music events for your enjoyment for your loved one. Wonderful thing to get involved with. I can't stress this group enough. Whether you're musically inclined or not, it's a great thing to be a part of. And it happens 3 times a week, so you've got plenty of opportunities to join in on that. And then the Riverside County Office on Aging, there's their phone number and their email. Another great county and state funded resource for caregiver assistance and senior care. And that is it. So at this time, I know that's a real quick, lot of information thrown at you guys, but I wanted to open it up to any questions or concerns that you may have for me, and I'm happy to give you some information here. So does anybody have any questions about the topic that we discussed or any of the concerns that go along with that?
Well, Brian, this is Candace. I just have another resource that I hope you will add to your local resource
Sure.
page. And that is the center has a LGBTQ plus specific caregivers group. It meets every Friday at 3 p.m. It is a peer-led group, but it is definitely, so it's not a therapeutic group run by a therapist. It is a peer-led group, but you know, a lot of our folks are taking care of their partners. And so, and they might be of the same age and then sometimes younger and also might not get the same kind of support out there.
Yeah.
So that's why this support group is so important, I think, to the community. So
Great.
I hope you'll add that to your resources.
Yes, thank you. Can you, I have some of that information, but can you send me a quick blurb about that so that I can include that in this slide and then also the email that I send out to folks?
I can put that up in the chat.
Thank you. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
Brian, it's Kathy Lewis, and I just wanted to say that I think one of the things you talked about in terms of getting crafty when trying to figure out how to get loved ones maybe to follow their routines and so forth, that's where those support groups are so helpful.
Yes.
And especially, as Candace mentioned, the peer-to-peer, because
Yeah.
that's where other people have already tested something out. It maybe worked with their loved one, and they can give you ideas on what might work, you know, in your own situation. And it's just such a great way to share those ideas. So I can appreciate having to come up with crafty ideas on your own is a challenge, but when you talk to others, suddenly you think of things. So
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
great.
Support groups are a wealth of information, particularly right now because we're not getting out and socializing with other people. So this is our way of compensating for that. But a lot of the tips and tactics and techniques that you're trying to find as a resource are things that other people in that group have been dealing with on their own and have come up with some really great ways of getting around all of that. So like you said, Kathy, it's all of these support groups that you see here, they're all resources for you. It's sometimes people are very hesitant to do a support group because they don't want to do the emotional part, that's not really my thing, that's not for me. But remember that you don't have to share your entire story with these support groups. It's a great resource for you, regardless of how much of yourself you share in your own situation, you tell other people. It's there for you to get information from other people and other people's experience. So those of you that are kind of shy away from support groups, at this time during quarantining that we're in right now, it's very possible that these support systems are your best ally. Does anybody have any questions about any of the material that we talked about today? Any concerns that you're dealing with out there that you want to share with us and talk about?
Candace did just post the called Who Cares? The Caregivers group for the LGBT Center meets Fridays at 3 p.m. And so, Brian, I'll send you that link.
Okay.
So you can include it.
Okay.
I can't hear you.
Yeah, Brett, your audio is kind of.
It would help if I put
go.
my mic down in my face.
That's okay. Thank you.
It says this new headset. I just like, I'm talking to the moon. So I was just saying that Candace had posted, it's called Who Cares? And it's called Caregivers Group meets Fridays at 3 p.m. I will send you the link and the Zoom number so you can include it in your materials.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
But I don't see anyone else in a chat. Does anyone else want to unmute or ask a question? Feel free. All right. Candace, any final comments from you then?
No, I don't.
And I lost Candace. Does anyone else hear her?
Yeah, I can't hear her either.
Candace, you're silent even though you're not on mute.
We got kind of a new process
There we
going. Yes.
So Candace, we couldn't hear a thing you said.
Really?
You were on mute, or somehow, even though you weren't on mute, you were muted.
Yeah. Well, just go to the website under mental health and you'll find our caregiver group.
Okay. And Candace, can you copy or send that to me at my email and I'll share it with Brian?
Well, it's right there in the chat. Can you?
That's not letting me copy it. That's why I was trying to, I can try. I will try. All right, we'll work out our technical difficulties. All right,
actually, you need to kind of go to the site to register anyway to be
Okay.
able to get the link. So.
Okay.
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 All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. I did like to see some of the chuckles that went by people that were together. I was really talking to Robert there because I saw you guys chuckling with each other for some of the, especially when we were talking about the depends. So we've all been there in our own way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, thank you for participating, everybody. I hope this was enjoyable, and keep a lookout for our next Eisenhower Center presentation. I don't know offhand what it is. You, Brett, probably
It
not.
will be, we're off next week. It is the 7th, October 7th, and it will be Christina Congdon and Nadia Jensen talking about respiratory health and techniques. So breathing in an area of flu and COVID and everything else that's going on in the holidays.
And fires.
Yeah.
I'm noticing a lot of respiratory distress
Exactly.
myself with the fires and the poor air quality that we've had. So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And hope to see you at our next Health and Wellness series.